Hello everyone, today we're taking a look at the Lightning 2 from YMZFPV. Now be honest, how many of you missed in the thumbnail that this was missing an arm? One? Two? Let me know down in the comment section below. We'll get to how that happened a little bit. The motors are 1003 10,000 kV, and the props are the GymFan 2023 props. The all-in-one down here is a 12 amp all-in-one. It is a traditional 1 to 2S 12 amp all-in-one with the receiver right up top here. Of course, this is our Walksnail VTX, but it also does come in analog. XT30 for our battery connection. I can't quite make out what size of capacitor it is, but there's one on here. USB ports on the bottom, and it does have a 3D printed battery tray. And yes, I did damage the camera a little bit here on the metal aluminum uprights, as well as I broke an arm, lost the motor and the prop. Couldn't find it. Looked for it twice. So it was a hot day on this particular flight, and you can see I've got the core warning on there. For the most part, I ignore the core warning. Normally I just disable it in the OSD because with these HD VTXs, they do get very hot. We need to protect those. But the core warning is actually coming from our flight controller, and I have yet to see a flight controller burn up because it got too hot. And you know, we have people flying in some of the hottest places on the earth, and I don't think I've read one instance of specifically an analog quad that a flight controller has burned up on. So that's something to note. I didn't go over the accessories. I kind of breezed through the quick specs. It does come with a traditional 2 screwdrivers. It comes with a few extra screws. It comes with an extra 3D printed battery tray, as well as an extra set of props. The extra set of props are pretty banged up. I had one significant crash before I had the secondary significant crash. So actually this is the flight before the crash where I broke the arm and lost it somewhere. I don't really know where, and we're gonna dive into that just a touch. It's not like a deep diagnosis. I made a mistake, and I wanged it again, and it broke. That's why I fly these things over the course of days. I don't fly them over the course of an afternoon or an hour or something like that. I fly them day after day. I go for flight sessions that usually range between 30 minutes and an hour and 30 minutes, depending upon whether it's the weekend, my lunch break, or after work, and what the weather's like as well. Of course, hoops, I get a lot of flights on those because I can fly those inside as well, and but that doesn't really pertain to this particular video. As far as the Lightning 2, it's a successor to the Lightning 1. Should be a little bit lighter. Of course, I didn't weigh it because of the fact that I'm missing some of the parts, so I can't really simulate that weight. I do think they need to do two things. I would like to see the PID tune improved because I thought, while it wasn't terrible, I wouldn't even put it in the bad range. I just thought it could be improved, specifically when it comes to prop wash handling. You know, sometimes we get off on our flight path or we don't come in great. Yeah, I did clip the TV, but we have a little bit of prop wash here that I haven't seen on too many quads recently, so I do think we need some prop wash handling. And overall, I thought it tracked fine. It was just the prop wash handling that I thought we needed to improve upon. I also think they need to make 2 different sizes of battery trays on their 3D prints so that you can use different batteries. Like the Tattoo R-Line batteries, the 550s I think they are, they don't fit. The China Hobby Line 450s don't fit. So I was pretty much had to use G&B batteries. And I did do some flight testing. Let me go back to that page. But on this particular flight with a 450, I got 3 minutes and 58 seconds, or excuse me, without any punch outs, this sort of flat flight style, I got 3 minutes and 58 seconds. Also, it's worth noting the flight audio comes from a secondary camera. I bring that into post, as well as the OSD. I used a tool that puts the Betaflight OSD on the screen, just like, well, similarly to how you would see it in the goggles, because that's important information I think that you get from that. So it's pretty efficient, surprisingly, for pushing 2-inch props with 1003 motors. I don't know if the motors are a limiting factor on the PID tune, but that was something that I do think needs to be improved, as well as probably the thickness of the bottom carbon fiber plate. So you see the flight has ended. We ended that flight with all the punch outs at 3 minutes and 18 seconds. So we're going to take a look at the crash that broke the arm, lost it, plucked it right out of the motor connector, and off it goes. I kind of clipped that tree and then hit the chimney, and then you can hear it hit the pool, which you can hear it hit the pool cover, which we'll dive into a little bit. This is a secondary crash that I actually had before that crash, which was really the only other, what I would say was truly significant crash. Makes a pretty good thud when it hits. Now we're going to take a look at the crash that broke the arm off. Remember, if you didn't see that in the thumbnail, I'd like to know. But I'm going to be quiet after it hits the chimney. That way you can listen. I don't know how high up this thing went after it hit the chimney, but listen to how long it takes before you hit kind of a mild thud on my flight audio camera when it hits on the pool cover. Swoop over the tree, kind of swoop-de-doo around this, whatever that thing is, and then punch and clip and...
Oh no.
Even in the moment when that happened, I was kind of surprised at how long it took to come down. And kind of in my own curiosity, I was kind of pairing up my typical punch out when I would go up and down along the chimney versus that sound. I was trying to kind of listen to one video and play the other one through VLC on two different windows. And I wouldn't want to say it went significant higher than it normally does. I just was surprised by how long it took to hit the pool cover. So that's one thing that I would definitely encourage them to do is to, but because we have traditional arms, to increase the carbon fiber thickness on here, which I believe is 2 millimeters, but let me get my calipers. Yeah, the calipers are saying 1.88 millimeters, but 2 millimeters is kind of the bottom point. And I say 2.5 millimeters because if you all go back like 2.5 years ago, it might be 3 now, the rocket race from Jack's 3D printing, I think TKS designed this, Kevin Langlois designed this, and then we just kind of tweaked it to my liking a little bit. But we found on 2 millimeter thickness, even with this kind of cube design, that you had a tendency to break arms when you hit something very hard. So I think 2.5 millimeter on a 2-inch prop kind of needs to be our standard. They could probably lose a little bit of weight by either using carbon fiber on the top, which is a little bit of a redesign issue, or just make this thinner somehow, because, you know, I smacked it into that chimney and I broke the camera and scratched up, but it doesn't look like it warped the aluminum at all, but it was enough to take that arm right off. So I think those are two things what we need to look at with the Lightning 2 to be improved. They do have an analog version, and the PID tune might be better for the analog version. I'm not sure which one they designed the PID tune on. I just thought in some of the cases where you're coming down or you're coming in hard on a turn, that it was not handling the prop wash quite as well as we'd seen with other quads. But overall, I really like the design. It's a lot of fun to fly, even with the PID tune the way it is. Of course, mine doesn't fly anymore. And this is about as close as you get to one of my favorites, which is the TKS Rocket Race, which in modern day building, I wouldn't encourage anyone to build this, especially if you wanted to go with a secondary layer and, HD VTX. It's just not designed for that. The props overlap just ever so slightly across the top of the flight controller. You can do it. It's just a pain in the tuchus to get the stack below the prop line, because you have to do that, and then you have to really finagle the canopy and all the 4 mount points so that you're not hitting the canopy with your props. I wanted it to be as small as possible with 2-inch props. So I would say that if you're in the States and you like this sort of design, but you want a beefier, something thicker that's going to take more crashes, this is the Star-Lord. It's a 90 millimeter frame from jacks3dprinting.com. I believe that's still available. This is one that you can do a 2-layer stack on, no problem. And I've actually got this one right here is an HD0 version. But you could definitely do it with this frame, just knowing that if you have a couple of pretty severe crashes, severe in my opinion, I smacked headlong right into the fence one time, and then I think that angle I kind of hit the chimney at was just terrible for as far as leverage goes. It wasn't coming down, so probably wasn't quite as fast as that hit when I came down, but it just seems like to me that you might call it a bad luck crash, you might say it's a design deficiency, but that's really up to you. I really thought it would have damage, though, from what I saw on the goggles. And then when the video went black, I was like, oh, this is bad. I might not find this thing at all. If you do want to look at this frame, this is the replacement for the Lightning 1, of course. The Lightning 1 was only available in analog, so they switched some things up a little bit so you could get that second layer stack in there. You may want to design your own frame, but use their metal pieces, whatever you want. I'll have a link down the video description to YMZFPV so you can take a closer look at some of the designs and some of the components and spec listings that they have on there. Or if you happen to want one, it does fly pretty well, and it is nice and small. I have an affinity or a bias towards small 2-inch base quads, are some of my favorites, specifically for outdoor flying. But yeah, I lost an arm. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, or otherwise, please let me know in the comments section below. I appreciate your time. Thanks for watching.